Hello and welcome to my channel, Dr. English. This is Dr. Muafi. I've been teaching English for many years. In today's lesson, we're going to focus on some of the challenges we encounter or face when learning a new language. Well, let us start with pronunciation. I'm sure that if you, started learning a new language, be it English or any other languages, well, you come across lots of differences and problems and issues you get with the pronunciation of different words, because some of them have irregular pronunciation patterns, right? And they are not pronounced the way they are spelled. And not to mention, they have multiple spellings. And sometimes they have very similar or even different various spellings, giving rise to different pronunciations. Well, for example, I give you a few instances here, like light. Well, it has GH, but it's not pronounced. These two letters are silent, no pronunciation, so we pronounce it as light. But we have bite or bike or mic, right? So it doesn't have, or we don't write it with GH in the middle, okay? Or tough and through. Well, tough, well, we don't know when to actually pronounce GH as fit sound. Here, we didn't pronounce it in light in the first place, but here we pronounce it f. Again, in through, we don't pronounce it. So it's quite shocking to those people who are not familiar with the English language. And when or once they start learning this new language, then they come across or they face difficulty, right? Well, accent also plays an important role. What accent you have or what accent you bring from your local or indigenous language to the new learning situation, that also counts. And not to mention, we have regional variations like British English, American English, Australian English, Irish English. We have even Pakistani English, Indian English. We have many different, accents or dialects, is what they say in linguistics, okay? Well, not to mention, also, we have different spellings. For example, if you follow American English, color is written with, well, this is spelling, C-O-L-O-R. There's no U, which is written or spelled in British English, okay? Not to mention the sound, which is different again. It gets, very weird sometimes, all right? Like British people, for example, don't pronounce sound at the end, all right? That's a different, a very, very different story. Don't want to get into that. There's too much details in it. And also we have class, for example, which is the American pronunciation of class, whereas the British people pronounce it as class, right? So we have these kinds of regional variations or differences in, I put them actually under pronunciation. Well, let's move on actually to the second item. We don't have much time, but I have to be very, very quick. Vocabulary. We have lots of vocabularies in the languages, right? In English, for example, we have some vocabularies that have multiple meanings. They have various meanings. And this poses a kind of challenge, right, to the new learners. They don't know which meaning, for example, fits that bill or that situation or that scenario that they're reading in the text. Context, it plays a very important role. What context you're talking about, what discourse, for example, you read that word. For example, sentence and grammar, it means sentence, right? The structure of or a couple of words put together and you make a sentence, for example, in English, right? But the same word sentence in legalese, in legal text, it means something, right? It means something else. It means the decision which is made by the judge or the jury, right? So that's a different story again altogether. Well, culture plays a very, very important key role in the language. And so much so that we say that culture and language are inseparable, indispensable, all right? Most of the expressions go under that category because the expressions, they have some kind of culture-bound root, right? For example, if you say in English, a wet blanket, does it ring a bell? Does it mean anything to you or in your culture or in your indigenous language? Well, I doubt it, right? So culture is very important, and most of the words have their roots in culture, one way or another. And we also have collocations. This also is very important because some words are used with other words. It's actually the go-togetherness of the words. And sometimes they constitute the form, for example, a piece of utterance that we call expression, right? Or idiom, special idioms. And for example, you say pay attention to, not give attention to, right? In English, okay? So that's what we call as collocation. And now we come to the very important concept of grammar. Grammar. Well, grammar includes or encompasses lots of rules in most of the languages in the world. And every language is unique to itself. It's peculiar to itself, right? And sometimes it has lots of complex rules that are very tiring, very boring, right? And Like, for example, the rules that we have in English for indefinite article a or an. As you all know, for example, a is used for words of countable nouns, of course, singular countable nouns that start with a consonant, not a vowel. If it starts with a vowel, then you have to use an, right? Altogether, there is, well, another story again, right? And there is what we call as definite article. It is used for the situation where it is that concept or that word used with there is used in a very familiar situation, or there's, well, one thing, for example, in the world, like the sun, the moon. Because we have the sun in the solar system, we have one sun, everybody knows what we are talking about, okay? If I, for example, say this whiteboard or the marker, I use their marker, so everybody understands what I'm talking about, right? Among the other markers that I have or the other whiteboards that are available, for example, in the other rooms or classrooms. And we also have, in the grammar, exceptions. There are lots of exceptions that, bore people to death. So it's quite boring and it's quite difficult to learn and memorize all of the rules and their exceptions, all right? For example, the exception of the plural countable nouns for tooth is teeth, right? Children for child. But you say books instead of something else, like book, singular, books, plural. Well, listening comprehension also poses a threat sometimes. It is somehow becoming or making language learning somehow difficult for the new learners, especially that native speakers speak very fast, right? Especially when you watch the movies, sometimes you don't, well, get the points or the messages because of the words that they say, because of the expression they use, all right? And they not only use weird expressions, but they or local idioms, but they also speak it very fast. Well, and they also use the slangs, very strict kind of level talk, right? Or colloquialisms. They sometimes liaison, like they use liaison, like they eat words, like the end of the words or sentences. Not usually because their energy level goes down, but they don't say it this way. It's quite common, all right? And we move on to fear of making mistakes. As you know, well, lots of adults, especially those people who are introvert, that kind of mentality they have. They are not very sociable people, all right? They usually take it to themselves, and they don't want to, or they hate looking stupid, all right? Among the other students, because they laugh at them and they hate being laughed at. Well, everybody is like this, but usually the kids, especially young kids, they are not like that. They usually don't enjoy that kind of self-defensive mechanism that the adults, possess. So it's a good thing if we shut it down a little bit or turn it down, if you can, shut it off, well, completely. And don't really care about the others' judgment, the other students' judgment when you're learning something. And even if you make a huge mistake, a blunder, whatever, it doesn't matter because everybody does it when they are learning a new language, right? And a psychological frustration that we get from all of these problems and challenges that we have in learning a new language, that also is very much challenging for us. We get frustrated when we come across these difficult rules of grammar, for example, or many, many different expressions and idioms and slangs, native speakers use in the movies or in the news. When you read, for example, a piece of text or in a magazine or a journal, you find a lot of new words, all right, which are very much frustrating, psychologically speaking. And also the kind of confusion we get, right? And to be honest with you, you need to develop that kind of, ability in you or in your mental capacity for confusion, because language comes with a lot of confusion, right? And it's okay. Everybody gets confused. Because it's okay for everyone, I wrote common problems are good news, right? Now, in this 7th part, I want to tell you a little bit of my own experience or the other experiences that I gained from years of my, teaching experience. So, because, what they say in English, misery loves company, it's like when a problem goes epidemic, when a problem becomes common, well, they start thinking about the solutions to it, right? If it is individual, all right, maybe it's quite limited to you and nobody else has faces or experienced that situation or challenge that you have right now. Well, that's another story. You have to be, a little bit cautious about that. But here, because it's everybody's problem, and we have common solutions to the problem, common problems too, right? For example, the general cure that we have for learning a new language is consistent practice. You need to continuously practice. Practice makes perfect. Don't get frustrated. Don't get disappointed when a lot of new vocabularies come up, all right? Or when you don't understand, when you listen, for example, to a piece of audio or watch movie, all right? Don't get upset with it because it's everybody's problem, especially at the initial levels or elementary levels of learning a new language. Well, and learn the language step by step. We all do this. Look at how the kids learn their mother tongue. It takes 3-4 years, right, of their lifetime, 24/7, all year long, right? Not even 1 year or 2 years, 3-4 years. Even after 4 years, they make a lot of mistakes, all right? And they are corrected by their elders, okay? So we learn the languages step by step. And the kind of specific suggestion that I have for learning, for example, vocabularies, is that, well, we learn them, don't learn them in a list. Learn them in a piece of utterance, a bigger piece of utterance. For example, in a text, knowing what the context is all about, right? So because that vocabulary makes sense in that bigger picture, okay? Well, and learn vocabularies, you can do that through pictures sometimes, okay? There are lots of photo dictionaries. Of course, I don't advise you to go to dictionaries and learn words through the photo dictionaries, but you can, well, refer to, the dictionaries because it's a reference book altogether, after all. And you can also make a lot of sentences. When you learn a vocabulary, try to make various sentences. And not only that, try to personalize those concepts in your life. Bring it to your life, or take yourself into that example, all right? And don't forget the AI. Use AI. We have lots of AI platforms that come to everybody, every new language learner's rescue. Well, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you very much.